So Extinction finally dropped. Almost 5 days in delay, also with Microsoft and Xbox players not even able to play on launch day. And this was all blamed on certification again. But when it comes to the actual Extinction map, what can we say about it? And for once, I can actually say this map looks like what I would call a facelift. It's actually the first map, in my opinion, that actually hits the mark. When we were told that we're going to get a remastered version of Ark Survival Evolved, this is the kind of thing I was expecting when they said we're going to remaster all the maps. And Extinction is the first one to pull that weight. Even though this map is actually pretty decent, a lot of this positivity is actually going to be overshadowed by this storm we got on release. But as always, I'm here to give my honest opinion regardless of how I feel between the release and the actual content we got given. I've actually already spoken about the whole release and what I felt about it on a previous video, so I'm not really going to go into that on this video because I want to actually make this video positive because I'm actually impressed. The Extinction map was where I spent a lot of my PvP days on Ark Survival Evolved, and later on, after I stopped playing PvP for a while, I spent quite a bit of PvE there as well. So this map holds a lot of sad moments and a lot of good moments for me, and I was really interested to see how this map was going to turn out because it's so unique. So the terrain was something I was quite used to, and spawning in the sanctuary and seeing the actual facelift that the buildings in the sanctuary received was actually a thing to behold. Normally when you spawn on an Extinction, you go to the sanctuary, the buildings are so bland and they almost look dead. Yes, it's supposed to show the fact that the sanctuary was abandoned and is now run down, but it didn't feel futuristic. It didn't feel like this was a place that was full of tech and life with all these robots roaming around. But with the new facelift, it kind of brought some life to it and still kind of maintained and retained that abandoned feeling with the overgrown trees all around the map. But it was really nice to see the buildings look futuristic, like they once held lots and lots of future life in it. It really took me by surprise because I believed we were gonna get a rerun of the same thing we've been getting since ASA released, and all the new maps were being basically copy and pasted across the game. But with this map, I have to say the copy and paste was still there, but we also got some additions to that copy and paste. But honestly, I didn't understand these text strands. Like I don't know, were these in the original Extinction? I don't remember these being here, gang. But we couldn't deny the copy and paste still at any point because there was a lot of places and a lot of rat holes and things that were heavily condemned on the original Extinction from ASE that were still there. So I was like, they still copy and pasted, but at least they did a little bit more. Flying around the map, I didn't really notice any huge unmissable mesh points, but obviously there's gonna still be some mesh points here and there, but nothing that we can attribute to the devs being lazy and not actually doing their due diligence when going around the map. But one of the things that quickly caught my attention and really annoyed me was the carryover of more bugs. We've seen this throughout all the new maps we're getting remastered, and they just have the same bugs from the previous iteration on Ark Survival Evolved. From my favorite creature, the Managarmer, having the same bug that everyone hated from Evolved, where it would literally jump in the air and get stuck. It literally took me no more than 1 minute looking at a wild mana fly around before it got stuck, and I'm like, bro, what are we doing, bro? And one of the other bugs that we all know too well, the bugged corrupt dinos. If you've played Extinction, you know that when you go into the wasteland or whenever there's a corrupt dino near you, sometimes they would spawn as a big cluster of like cells. And back in the day in Evolved, these clusters of cells weren't that invasive. You could see them flying around. It was annoying, but it wasn't too much of a problem. But on Ascended, this went beyond that. It's no longer just a little cluster of cells. Well, the cluster still exists, but now there's a whole visual nightmare along with that cluster. We're just literally just a big cloud of pinky purple that just destroys your screen. And if you have a lot of these wild corrupt dinos all in the same place, it is absolutely terrible. I can't even say anything about that. This needs to be addressed instantly, and it occurs more than it doesn't occur, so you'll probably see it a lot. I tried to punch things and go closer to things to make them render in, and it just didn't work. So yeah, that was a big red flag for me. I also noticed when I was going around the wasteland that one of my favorite things on Extinction are the orbital supply drops, and they actually had a little bit of love added to them. Back in the day, if you're trying to do a drop and you're trying to see what a drop is, sometimes it was kind of difficult to actually say what tier they were because you would look at them and the colors wouldn't really show, and you were just looking at the little strands of neon to tell you what level they were. But now there's whole panels on these drops that kind of indicate what level it is, so you know the difficulty before you get there, which I felt was a really nice touch because it was a big thing where we couldn't actually figure out what tier these things were sometimes. So that actually changed a lot of that first, and now we can see it just from the panels alone. The biomes around the map look mostly the same, but a little more vibrant than the ASC variant. And for once, the yellow rocks kind of fit on this map and didn't make it look any worse or any better. It kind of just sunk in and could be left unnoticed due to the nature of Extinction's terrain and the color palettes that the map originally had. I do have to commend them on the addition of some of the new ambient sounds. I never noticed these in Ark Evolved, so to me these were a little bit different. This could be because maybe I had my sound off, which I normally didn't. I liked to play with all the sounds up, especially on PvP, but there was a lot of ambient sounds that kind of brought some of the areas to life. The birds tweeting, the little ambient crickets here and there. It was something that I find a nice touch because ambient sounds, ambient things kind of give you that immersion where you can fall in and forget about everything else and just indulge in the game. And while I was going through the different biomes and the different bubbles, I noticed that they had a little bit of a new effect on the actual bubbles when you enter and exit each biome. It gives you a little silhouette that actually shows you entering and leaving the spheres, which is really nice because it gives you a sense of actually entering and leaving. So this little touch is something nice because it's visually aiding, and it's also visually nice to see that they actually thought of something that small to add and implement. We finally have a loud, audible warning system for the world barrier. So on Extinction, one of the things is you get hit by that world barrier all the time, but now we have an audible warning that's kind of like a beep, and the closer you get, the louder the beep gets, letting you know you are getting a little bit too close to the world barrier, which is really nice because it's going to actually stop a lot of deaths happening. Because I can't lie, a lot of the times I would fly right through this and I wouldn't even know because either can't see a lamppost or the lamppost is blocked by some of the terrain. And even though we weren't told about it, we do have tech dinos back, and they kind of look basically the same with the new kind of softer aesthetic that we're seeing on most creatures nowadays on Ark Ascended. Some of them did get slight changes like Quetzals and their wing patterns. And the one thing I see people complaining about a lot that I actually think is quite a nice addition is the King Titan roaming around the map and spawning in on its own. I can see this being an issue on PvP as it could be used in devious ways, but I don't understand the overall anger. Most of us play overall mods where a lot of the bosses spawn on the map and roam around the map, and we love it when it comes to overhaul mods. So now that it's in the base game on a base map, why are we so mad about it? This is the same as any of the mods you play where there's a boss or mini bosses roaming around the map. So in my opinion, this is a good addition because it brings a lot of co-op gameplay. You're playing a massively multiplayer survival game where there's going to be lots of people on a map. This is a fun activity for the whole server to take part in whenever it happens. The King Titan spawns, a bunch of tribes team up together and they go fight this thing. It brings a whole different dynamic. It even brings the dynamic of you're in PvP, the Titan is out, everyone goes and fights, and you try to lure people to the Titan and you fight around this Titan, making it a lot different, changing the whole landscape of PvP and PvE when it comes to co-op gameplay and PvP meta. And now there's a few things that I think would have looked a little bit better with some more updated textures and looks to them. And this brings me back to the fact that when ASA was announced as a visual update, this right here was what I was expecting. Having it take 5 maps before things finally set a decent standard isn't that good. Taking 5 maps to get here is just not it. To me, it just shows that they haven't been ready and they set out knowing they weren't ready, setting out on their worst foot instead of waiting a little bit to set out on their best foot. This release could have been so spectacular with a map that looks this good and then the release of a new story map building hype for the future of Ark. But a lot of this is going to be overshadowed by the storm, and there's no way to look around this. It's just going to be overshadowed by the storm, especially the fact that this happened during one of the biggest holidays during the year, Christmas. A lot of people are going to remember this. If you're an Ark player, you're going to remember 2024. Your Christmas might have been ruined or might have been made a little bit more upsetting because of Ark. Because a lot of players have lost progression, a lot of players' bases decayed because they can't play during the week and they wanted to play during the weekend, but the servers were down for Xbox players and for some of the other consoles as well. So now it's like, if the servers were down, they lost their progression at Christmas. Some people are not gonna forget that. And it just keeps letting us know that Wildcard knows where the issues are. They know how the scheduling works, especially when it comes to a Christmas time where things are gonna be hectic for companies, and yet they are still doing the same mistakes and still giving the excuse of the same things when they know how to resolve this. But at least I can personally stand on this and say, if I had to rate this map, this is 8 out of 10 for me. This is actually better than the original Extinction map, which is big for me to say because at the end of the day, if you've watched my other video, you know I'm not happy right now with Ark. But again, I don't pull punches. If it's good, I'm gonna say it's good. If it's bad, I'm gonna say it's bad. It is what it is. I like to be as unbiased as I can be. But yeah, that's my quick overview of the map and review of it. And I think this was a decent build. It looks good. It plays a little bit better. I have updated my system, so I'm running the game a lot smoother now. But the map looks a little bit better than the original, which is huge because this is what we're supposed to get. We need everything to look like this. We need everything to be better because that makes Ark Ascended a different game than just a solid copycat of Ark Survival Evolved. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Did this map finally hit the mark for you? Or do you still think it's worse than the original? But yeah, don't forget, if this is your first time here and you like my opinion and you like the review, make sure to like, subscribe. Go check out some of my other videos and I'll see you guys on the next one.